Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Check Out This Record podcast. My name is Frank, and with me is my good buddy, Mark.
Hey, Frank. Is the internet, I don't know, does it feel different?
It does, Mark. And that's because we're now syndicated via Redline Radio LLC out of Cleveland, Ohio. Mark, remember the good old Cleveland days, pal?
I had a blast in Cleveland. I didn't see anything but a bar or a brewery the whole time. I loved it.
Well, you know, and I remember that actually when you went too, and I know you had a good time, and that's of course awesome. And might I add something actually very special, and that is my wife is from Cleveland. Yep, absolutely. Now I haven't been there in a while, as we now go to Southern Ohio because that's where her family resides. But the times I went there, I definitely enjoyed it. So for all those just hearing us for the first time, welcome. This is the podcast where Mark and I recommend albums to each other to review. Plus, we have a variety of musical conversations, like our Spotlight series, where we dig into a band and their whole history, and we see what comes up on the other side.
Yeah, and in our Verse series, we pit two bands or albums against each other. Frank and I duke it out over which one is better. Plus our 100% original top 5 or 10 list. It's an idea we had that we definitely didn't steal from High Fidelity or the David Letterman show. Because you can't copy a list, right, Frank?
You can't, absolutely not. They have nothing on us. I don't care if they're movies or late night shows with huge followings, but they have nothing on us. And you can also check us out on Instagram and YouTube. We like to drop additional content there and hopefully leave you mouth-watering, wanting more of our musical goodness and nonsense. Of course, if you have a record that you want us to check out, drop a comment wherever you find us. While you're at it, subscribe, give us a like, a review. So I say this right now, Mark, how are you, Broseph?
Frank, I am fighting the good fight. I am living the dream. I like to keep it to 2 cliches of show folks, so welcome aboard. You've got me thinking about Ohio and how no one cares about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But there are a ton of great bands and artists that have come from Ohio. Why don't we break out a quick top 5 and tell people what we think about Ohio?
Yeah, absolutely, Mark. I say let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to give my top 5, and because I respect you, brother, and you can check this out on our archives, I'm omitting the band Cloud Nothings from the list. So just people know that, okay? And you got to check out that episode in the archives to hear why. So here we go. So 5 all the way to 1. Number 5 is this band called the Sidekicks. They're from Cleveland originally. They may actually primarily be based out of Columbus, but they've been one of my more favorite recent bands. Their 2012 release Awkward Breeds is a great record, and the song 1940s Fighter Jet is one of my favorite tunes. So the Sidekicks I have coming in at number 5. Number 4, 9 Inch Nails. I mean, listen, if you like the electronic aspect, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Sound?
Yeah, the industrial sound, whether you like it or not, I'm sure someone could appreciate Trent Reznor's skills at composing songs. Believe it or not, he's actually from Pennsylvania, but he moved to Cleveland to pursue music, and that's why 9 Inch Nails is deemed from Cleveland. So number 4, 9 Inch Nails. Number 3, Guided by Voices. They're from Dayton. Most people really don't know much about this band. I mean, they were formed in 1983, and they've been consistent with releasing albums. They have over 30 studio albums and a huge cult following. Guided by Voices.
I thought for a second there you were going to say people don't know a lot about Dayton, Ohio.
That could be possible too, to be honest with you.
Next week we do a book report on Dayton, Ohio.
We do. I'll have to go to my wife for some information on that. Number 2 is Afghan Wigs. We've done an episode on them. I believe that was our 3rd where we featured them. You could again check that out in the archives. They're from Cincinnati.
Record.
Yeah, from Cincinnati, and to me, they're such an underrated gem. First non-grunge band to be signed to Sub Pop Records as well. I love them. I absolutely love the Afghan Wigs. And number 1 is some guy, Dino Paul Crescetti, but he also went by Dean Martin. Dean Martin, yes.
Dean Martin.
Do you see what I did there?
I did see what you did there.
From Steubenville. And Mark, I don't know about you, but I love to say that name, Steubenville.
Steubenville.
Just love it. Love it.
It sounds like it's from a cartoon.
Yeah, it does actually. I'm not sure what else to say about him that people don't know already. He was amazingly talented, and Mark, you know me, you know I love the Rat Pack and their whole style and their whole vibe. So Dean Martin from Steubenville, Ohio, he comes in at number one, and that's my top five. Now I'm gonna throw the line over to you, my friend.
Yeah, so Mark's top five Ohio bands. I'm going to start with by just props to Afghan Wigs. Frank turned me on to them early in the show. Really love them. However, they don't crack the top five. But honorable mentions to you, my friend. We're going to start not with a place, but the name of a band. At number five, Defiance, Ohio. Believe it or not, originally from Columbus. Oh, this is a folk punk band that has carved out a really unique and bold sound. I highly recommend checking out their record, Midwestern Minute. It's got all that fun, folky punk you love, really earnest, really great band at number five, Defiance, Ohio. At number four, from Cincinnati, the Dopamines. I really like the Dopamines, really heartfelt, really angsty, and fun as fuck. Check out their record. Expect the worst. Really fun record. Really great band to get into. They're what we here in Florida like to call a fest band. They play fest kind of regularly. I think they're on Fat Records, but they're really fun. Very reminiscent of like D4. Just that kind of really cool punk rock. At number three, the Black Keys. Classic cool ass rock and roll, man.
No, you love them.
Find me another two-piece with the depth, range, and consistency. Fuck you, the White Stripes. I don't think Jack White's that talented. No, I'm just kidding. He's really talented. I don't think his records hold up as well as the Black Keys do. That's just my opinion. You're welcome to feel differently. Leave us a message wherever you're hating me right now. And check out El Camino. That record's awesome. It was the first Black Keys record I ever heard, and it just stuck to me. They're pretty cool. At number two, Devo. Devo rules. Whip It was really just a tip of the iceberg when it comes to how cool this band is. In fact, they made being uncool super cool, and the world is 100% better for it. So definitely check out Question, Are We Not Men? I love that record. At number one, Screamin J Hawkins. Known as the original shock rock artist for his over-the-top campy performances and bringing macabre props onto stage with him. He's best known for his classic I Put a Spell on You, but truly embraces that 50s rock and roll piano-driven sound. Really amazing. I'd tell you to find one of his records. Chances are in a record store you're going to find a best of, but you can go on the internet and find them. Pick anything. You'll have a really great time. It's really kind of fun. I mean, it's amazing. You'll be like, this was shock rock. But it's really interesting. And, he's one of those guys that was a pioneer because he made the live musical experience more than watching a band. He made it theatrical. Yeah. And that's, one of the things I love about a live music performance is when people draw you in and they make it, don't get me wrong. I love the music. I love the sound, but a little show goes a long way, right? So, Screamin J Hawkins at number one.
Nice.
Right, I'm really feeling it today.
Yeah, as you should, by the way. Quick notes: the Defiance, Ohio, is also where my buddy Travis is from. So shout out to him. He's also my
Travis.
Yeah, he's also my financial advisor, and he also listens to the podcast. So Defiance, Ohio.
Travis, send me some of Frank's money.
That's right. Right now, actually. and good point on the bands like the Black Keys. First of all, it's so hard to pull off those two-piece outfits. I mean, it's hard, especially having such a full range of sound, and they really do it well, and that's harder than people think. And Devo, people right away just think of Whip It, but they've influenced so many. And my two daughters actually love the Weird Al kind of parodies of of the Devo tracks too, because we like Weird Al. But I mean, again, he was influenced by them enough to do even his own original composition. So good picks, Mark.
Thanks, Frank. I thought you did a pretty dang good job yourself.
I try, and I do it for you.
Thanks, buddy.
So, I've been surprised after all this lockdown that we got a ton of new music still coming out in the form of singles, EPs. We got the new Bob Dylan album coming out. It's Rough and Rowdy Ways. Stay tuned because we'll be doing an episode when that album drops. You get the Bouncing Souls, you have Strike Anywhere, the Menzingers, this band Ace and Claire, Ben Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie, and Dion. Yes, Dion DiMucci released an album called Blues with Friends. Features Joe Bonamassa, Brian Setzer, Jeff Beck, Billy Gibbons, The Boss. Man, I personally love that particular album and I like it a lot, man. And Mark, what do you like recently that you've been hearing?
Well, I can tell you, on Sunday it was raining here. It was raining cats and dickens, and that Dion record was the perfect mood music for just hanging out, glass of whiskey, watching the rain. Just a great blues album. I was really happy to hear it. We did an episode on Kickin' Child a little while ago.
Yeah.
And I've just been in love with Dion since then. So this was like a real treat because I think for me and Frank both, it came kind of out of nowhere. It just popped up one day, and I don't know, maybe we need to read actual music.
Maybe. I mean, he's 80 years old, still cranking this stuff out.
Yeah. So, so really great stuff. I also really dig that new Bob Dylan single, False Prophets. It is 6 minutes long, but it's undeniably Bob Dylan doing the blues as only he can do it, and he does it well. Really cool stuff. When it comes to the punk rock that dropped, I was really happy to hear New Strike Anywhere. They haven't been nearly as active in recent years, but it was great to hear really smart political punk rock with great hooks make a comeback. I really hope that there's an album to follow that because I really enjoyed it and would love to see those guys again. They're really phenomenal. As for the Bouncing Souls and their acoustic single, World on Fire, it's nice. It's clear that the Souls still care about the world, but it seems a little too okay with the world around them and comes across almost willfully ignorant to the world as it is. I say that knowing that they recorded this about COVID and living through it, but in a post George Floyd's death world, it comes across as a little bit of an anthem for the complacent of allowing us to hey, it's going to be okay, instead of being more action driven. But again, I'm looking at that through the lens of today, and because the single did come out as this whole crisis was unfolding. If we had just been in a COVID world, I'd be telling you, hey, it's a cute song. Stay at home. You're doing us all a favor. It just feels, it feels a little complacent for its time for me. So, Frank, you and I have talked in the past about the Lawrence Arm. Not another episode. We're not referring back to an episode. This just kind of over time, and how the band's never really seemed to connect with us.
Yeah.
I have been, because when I talk to people about music and I hear people bring up the Lawrence Arms, I don't get it, but not in a bad way. It's one of those things. It's just a connection issue.
I agree.
So I've been trying to go through their back catalog and listen to more, and it is growing on me. So when I heard PTA, the first single off their upcoming album, Skeleton Coast, was available, I got pretty excited, and the song delivered. It's got really nice punchy drums. It's got some good blaring guitars, and that kind of signature Lawrence Arms snarky lyricism to it. I'm definitely looking forward to the new album to see how they're growing and progressing, because they are growing on me. So it's one of those things. Sometimes a band comes to you late. Sometimes hey, maybe I'm just gonna go okay, and they'll fade away. But you never know. So it's definitely one of those interesting things.
Sure.
So at first I was surprised about the Menzingers,
Right.
And their ability to release a new version of their single off their last album, America, You're Freaking Me Out.
Yeah.
Recent events from, it's like a week to a week and a half ago. When it was released, it's about 2 weeks now. But they, a lot of people think about them for their later albums, which are far more personal.
Yeah.
Whereas the band really has its roots, and I think the reason a lot of people call them a punk rock band, in a little bit more political of a stance as a band goes. After all, their first album was called A Lesson in the Abuse of Information Technology. So it's not really surprising that they're raising their voices. Raise those horses.
Raise those horses. Feeding them
the
well.
new verses are compelling.
Yeah.
I'm curious if they'll be using these in the upcoming live shows whenever those shows come up, right?
Sure.
As for Ace Sinclair and Mr. Ben
Gibbard.
Oh, is that it? I like to add letters and stuff. I'm going to defer to Frank, as neither of them sounded like anything I wanted to hear more of. But in fairness, I've never been a Def Cab fan. I'm not really sure who the other guy is.
Yeah.
But why don't you tell me about it?
Sure. Just add on your Lawrence Arms thing. I think it's a connection issue. I'm willing definitely to listen to them more. There is one track, Are You There, Margaret? It's Me, God. I like that song a lot. Like I really like how that's broken down. I would like to hear more of that. So I'd be willing to listen to them. And there's just so much music sometimes out there too. That's like I just never listened to them. I remember in one of our bands though, I remember someone coming to a practice and saying we sounded like them, and I was like, oh, I didn't even know that's what was going on. So
I didn't know. And having listened back to them, I don't remember us ever sounding that good, but sure.
Yeah, sure, exactly. So Ace Sinclair, there used to be a band that was called Frank Smith. The outfit was very folky indie rock band with heartfelt lyrics. That's when I heard of them. Then they went through a name change. They're more indie rocking sounding now with jangly guitars. I happen to dig them. I speak to the lead singer from time to time, not name dropping, but but I liked them. Gibbard's work with Death Cab, the early stuff, I do like. I was able to connect with it. Now, I don't mean that by him having a new song that the album's going to be good. In fact, last Death Cab albums really aren't anything good, and they were almost turned into a nostalgia act. But it's new and it's out, so that's something that just kind of referencing here. The Souls tune, it's tough to say that it may seem ignorant. I don't think no one wants to come off that way or complacent during the times. The root of these situations, they're just really complex to conceptualize, and for each person, a band, a group, or whatever, and everyone tends to react differently. It may not change the good nature. It doesn't change that there was good nature behind it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, Mark, we did we did a review on Jason Isbell's album, Reunions.
I remember this.
Yeah, you do. It was a couple episodes ago, and on YouTube we received a comment by a gentleman. His name was Keith, and he's a big Isbell fan. And even though half of us disliked the album and half of us liked the album, he dug our views and the review of it. I then engaged with him and asked him if he had a record to suggest to bring it on. So he said the following: one album I would like you guys to break down is Feral Roots by Rival Sons. I think they're an immensely talented hard rock band from California. I love their stuff and believe Feral Roots is the best hard rock album in many years. Their lead singer, Jay Buchanan, is off the charts great. I think you will love it. So, Mark, here we are with Rival Sons and their 2019 album, Feral Roots. I personally only heard of them by name and never sat and listened to any of their songs, yet alone albums. What about you, man?
Off the charts good, huh, Keith? We'll see. No, I'm in the same boat. I remember in throwing it out there, in social media land, that I was looking for some just straight up rock and roll to listen to, and got a couple really long lists. I remember them popping up in the middle of a lot of those lists, and as with when people recommend you music, it can be hard to go through everything. I tend to start at the top, do 2 or 3 bands, and then go to the bottom and do 2 or 3 bands, because I think that's usually where people hide the good stuff. But
I like that.
So for me, it was one that I had heard of but hadn't checked out. So I was pretty excited going into this. Last week when we did the second half of Fugazi, Frank and I were just like, our minds had been sucked through our bodies. You can hear the fatigue in our voices at the end of that episode. Yeah, it was a lot. It was heavy. It was heavy duty, man. So it was fun to just kind of jump into a rock and roll record. And then we got a really cool one. Yeah, it was funny too. And
I knew we were tired on that episode, and people could see it. We had tired muscles, tired eyes. I mean, I know I had bags on my eyes. It was awesome doing it, but this was a nice break from that heaviness.
Yeah.
So, Rival Sons, they were formed in Long Beach, California in 2009. They consist of vocalist Jay Buchanan, guitarist Scott Holiday, love that name, by the way, bassist David Best, and drummer Michael Miley. And they have 6 albums and 1 EP. So this record in particular is unique for the band. Mark, right? You want to go ahead and take us on that?
Not only because it's the band's first major label release, being on Atlantic's Elektra's Low Country label.
Yeah.
Man, that's confusing.
Yeah. Don't say that again.
But more interesting that it's the only album that took more than 3 weeks to record. They've got 6 albums and 5 of them got done in 3 weeks or less. That is amazing. The band is known for going into the studio right off the road and banging out records saying that, quote, rock and roll should be a knife fight, not a nice dance, end quote. Referring to not overthinking the music and keeping it raw. It's a motto I really dig. But they did, in fact, take, quote, months, end quotes, to put this record together. In fact, every time I tried to find out how many months it was always just, quotes, months in air quotes, everywhere you'd look. So, but hey, look, did it pay off for them? Did it lose any of that urgency by taking the time? The camera's the other way. I meant to do it this way. Anyways, we'll find out soon. Stay tuned.
Yeah. So what's interesting is singer Jay Buchanan was actually a solo artist. He had a band named Buchanan Band and independently had some releases. Guitarist Scott Holiday was looking for a singer after his previous band dissolved, and he looked no further than, guess where, Mark?
Wait. It's not Buchanan Turner Overdrive? He wasn't the lead singer from oh, wait a minute. Taking care of business, and you ain't seen nothing yet?
That's not this band, no.
Yeah, but BTO is badass.
Yeah, they were, absolutely.
But to answer your question, you said 2006, so I'm guessing LiveJournal or MySpace.
Oh, good guess on the LiveJournal one. It was MySpace.
Oh!
Remember that place?
I do.
I know.
I wonder if I can get my login going.
Maybe we should go back to it. It should be noted that Buchanan had trepidations about joining actually a rock and roll band, but after the positive response from the first album, he went all in. So, Mark, let's start at the start. Let's start with the band's style and first impressions. Take it away, my man.
Yeah, so my first impression, especially right off the gate with this record, capital R, capital N, capital R, rock and roll. Yes. Love this big sound. I can see the dude from Fury Road. You see that? The Mad Max Fury Road, Frank?
Yes, I have actually.
That drives the flamethrower guitar car.
Yeah.
I could see him rocking out to this. That'd be cool, man. It's got Zeppelin on the tongue and in the hand, but I think it's got a little bit of Sabbath in it, which is my dig. I prefer Sabbath to Zepp, but when you're trying to stay mainstream, I get why people go Zeppelin. It does feel a little long in parts for me, but it kept my attention and really kept me engaged.
Yeah. And actually, on a side note, I know I've seen them do, I think they do War Pigs cover on YouTube. So check that out.
Nice.
Yeah, check it out. So they're definitely, I think they're in tune to those influences for sure. So the styles listen: hard rock, blues, roots rock, classic rock, overall rock and roll sound. Like when we reviewed the Greta Van Fleet album, which I liked more than Mark, you could tell that these guys are paying tribute to all those that came before them, and they wanted, to give them a nod to that. The musicianship is definitely tight, and Holiday's guitar playing, I think, is great. It's not just chords; it's riffs. They got really nice solos. He's not just a chord player. Buchanan's great, and I really dig his style. It's clear, his vocal tone is clear and concise. It has range. I hear influences of Van Morrison, Paul Rodgers, and me personally, and I'm gulping right now like a young Steven Tyler. But that was just like for a minute I heard it, just for the record. For me in modern music, when I've been asked like what good rock bands are out there today, I usually go into like an underground bag of tricks and be like, oh, I recommend some punk band that has a rock feel to it. But honestly, after hearing these guys, I'd recommend someone looking for a good old rock and roll band today to look at Rival Sons,
Yeah, definitely.
So we get Feral Roots, released in 2019, 11 tracks, clocking in at 46 minutes and 57 seconds. So this is what we do, folks. We go track by track on these. We dig right in, meat and potatoes all day long, right? So,
I'll have my meat with a side of meat, please.
Ooh, there you go.
Ooh.
Just skipping the potatoes and going for meat and meat. Right?
I like potatoes. I'll take meat and potatoes.
Yes, there you go. There you go. So we get track one is Do Your Worst. So I love the opening distorted riff. It's a throwback, but it's done in a modern way. Jay's vocals, once they kick in, I think it all comes together. I think the chorus is nice and catchy. I like the Take My Body and Do Your Worst line. That chorus just stuck with me, and it maybe I definitely was singing that in my head. I think it's just a great way to start an album. Mark, what do you think about this tune?
Yeah, look at you on a first name basis with the singer of this band.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
Yeah, really powerful opener. Everyone gets a chance right up front to show their strengths, right? The guitars are nice and fuzzy and loud and a solid riff. The bass is bouncing along. It even gets a quick little feature. There's a quick little bass solo in there. It's only a couple notes, but it's pretty rocking. And the drums are big and punchy. You really feel them groove with the bass. BTO voice over there. Vocals pretty rad, man. The lyrics, they border on nonsensical for me, but the chorus works. It's not trying to be more than it is. It's just this great rocker to get you revved up for the rest of the album. So when you transition from this track into Sugar on the Bone, you're ready to rock and roll, my friend. And as far as Sugar on the Bone goes, track number 2, we're moving right along. I love a good song about how awesome rock and roll is, and that's what you get here. I love the big, fun, almost gospel choir chorus, and it just straight up rocks. That's it. This song is just that easy.
When you say moving right along, I think of the Muppets movie too. So I just have to always have that image in my head of us driving in a Studebaker. So I love the intro and I love the organ. Again, once Jay, first name basis, when his voice comes in, it's just this overpowering nature, and it carries the song. I would love to actually hear the vocal track solo in the studio of this, because to me, I think it would just be awesome. I bet it's a piece of art. One thing I had to say, it was just on the chorus. It's not a bad thing at all, but what it reminded me of, those woes during Sugar on the Bone. It reminded me of like the stuff that they deem and try to pass off today as modern rock with like Imagine Dragons. I always call them Puff and the Imagine Dragons, but it kind of reminded me of that. But listen, that's minute, and it's an absolute stellar tune. So Sugar on the Bone. Then we get Back in the Woods. It's another great intro riff. Holiday does a great job of really pronouncing this on the guitar, which is one of the things that rock music is supposed to be about, right? So I think when we speak of albums, we want to hear the guitar, right? That's something we want to hear in these rock albums. It's one of those tunes that has that 70s rock feel, but it doesn't make me want to be like, oh, I have to check the date on this or anything of that nature. It feels modern while keeping the tradition. We get 3 strong tracks here opening up this album. Mark, what do you think about Back in the Woods?
I love Back in the Woods because this, to me, favorite track on the album.
Nice.
You get this like John Bonham-esque drum solo opener, really like badass, really like big. You get that slightly slower Sabbathy riff, which I really dig. That's where this really picks that up for me. And then this really larger than life vocal performance. I really love his delivery here. You really feel like they're paying a tribute big time to those 70s rock and roll bands. And it pays off. It doesn't come across as corny or as gimmicky. You feel like they're doing themselves a real tribute, which is pretty rad.
Yeah.
So track 4 is Look Away. So we after 3 big rockers, it's time to slow it down, kids. The 1.5-minute pre-intro here feels a bit bloated, if I'm being honest. But that's the only downside to the extra studio time here, and I'm not going to be mad about it. The big issue for me here is how much time the song takes up. It kind of, where we had 3 really rocking tracks, it slows the experience down. When the band describes rock and roll as a knife fight, not a dance fight. This feels a little bit more like they've given up the knife and gone into shadow boxing, because you've got this pre-intro, and then you've got like a 30-second intro, and then the song starts. It was a little much for me.
Yeah.
The lyrics are probably some of my favorite on it, though, and I thought perhaps the most political, which is interesting because I don't really think that this album, other than this song, gets political all that much. I think it's far much more, and we'll talk about this later, I think it's more of a spiritual album.
Yes.
But I love the first verse, the second verse, and the chorus. So I'm just going to recite those for you. I promise not to try to be a Mr. Buchanan here and sing them because I'm going to fuck it up. But you watch the incision on your very own children on your television. The rhyme scheme's a little hokey, but I like what he's doing here. In your own reflection, you deny the protection of your own infection. Little over-rhymey, but pick up the word, see what he's doing. The chorus, I can hear you calling me. I recognize your voice saying, don't look away. I won't look away. I won't look away. Verse 2. You watch the distribution of a mass confusion spread by the institution. Instead of thinking you're the solution, really well laid out and delivered. Excuse me.
those aren't lyrics.
The rhyme scheme is a little hokey, right?
Yeah.
But this idea of being too passive in your life and watching your freedoms and your liberty giving up, and that you need to start doing something about it. And when they tell you not to look away, you say, I won't look away, I won't look away. But clearly you're being drawn away. I really appreciated that kind of intensity, and that the music really matched it. I thought it was a really interesting and cool song.
Yeah, maybe too. I was thinking as we were describing it, maybe it's a little bit too long. It could have been, if you think of an album, right? They could have pieced out maybe that guitar intro as like a separate track, and then
100%.
Yeah, it could have went into that, and I just thought about that as we were saying it. Listen, you get the first appearance of the acoustic guitar here. I like the epic nature and the buildup of it, which maybe would have been nice if that was cut, and then the next track goes, and then it goes right into it. What's cool is it's open D tuning on the guitar, so you get that open D chord sound mixed with this very loose playing style, which is nice. And Holiday, what he's doing is he's just only doing single and double notes here, but again with that open D sound, you get the open D in the background while he's doing this, so it becomes very rich and it becomes very full. And I like that playing. They just didn't go ahead and do something that was lazy. Again, the tuning of the guitar and all these things takes effort, then the band kicks in. It's probably my least favorite of the four tracks. Let me say that. I think the lyrics, like you said, are a little predictable, especially in the rhyming schemes. But one consistent trait again is Buchanan's vocals. So it's still a strong track, absolutely. We get Feral Roots, which is track 5. It's another acoustic guitar appearance. I got a Fleet Foxes feel in the beginning of this album, circa their first album. Trees, mountains, branches, roots. They all paint this picture. It's a spiritual picture. You mentioned that too, so I definitely agree with you on that. And that's the vibe I get. The softer, toned down guitars, the airy vocals mixed with words I mentioned before, really give it this feeling of the cosmos mixed with macrocosm emotions of sorts. So I definitely got a spiritual vibe with this song, Mark.
Yeah, for me, this is the first song that's really kind of boring. It had my attention. I got that he was making kind of a spiritual connection between nature and himself. Really sowing the seeds of that. But at nearly 6 minutes of it, I really, with one kind of cool guitar solo, it just felt a little repetitive and a little bloated for me. As you were talking there, I kind of realized if you break the first 4 songs of this off, they stand alone as like a really kind of cool EP. Yeah. And then as we get into the back half of this record, not that the back half of this record doesn't rock, it rocks. but it's more of this focused, almost more spiritual embodiment. But I'm gonna disagree with that statement later when there's a song I don't like. But anyways, the next song is Too Bad. Too Bad.
Too bad.
I'm pretty sure he's talking about an ex that's still either texting him too much or that likes to call out her name to piss off her new boyfriend when they're banging. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a rockin' track. Lyrically, it's kind of like, dude, you kind of look like a dick right now moment. But it's a rockin' track. Yeah.
You know, it's a classic rock song. You know, you get the nice, big and loud intro and a nice loud chorus. I mean, the subject matter, it's pretty upfront, like you said. It's nothing cryptic here where we're talking about, you know, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, and, you know, the connection of that. Nothing of that going on here. But most bands, I think, and that, where most bands would make this corny and generic, I think this band's ability to take this kind of simple subject matter and thread it with signature ingredients like the great guitar playing, the tight bass, the drums. Once again, Jay, first name basis, spot on vocals. You know, listen, it's a good rock song. It's a good rock song. Stood By Me, I liked the intro and the guitar work. I picked up, for some reason, some Clash a la Sandinista here, just in the beginning. I don't know if that was the reverb I was hearing or whatever, and even some CCR here. Again, the lyrics are not overly impressive, but maybe they're not supposed to be. I wouldn't say this is my favorite. I like the guitar work here more than the elements of the song. I know, Mark, you got something you want to say to me?
Yeah, I disagree with you on this one. In that I don't hear the Clash Sandinista or the CCR. I really hear kind of straightforward Stevie Ray Vaughan, you know, that kind of just classic blues rock number. The guitar work here is great, and it steals the show for sure. It's just kind of funny to me, you know, and I know that I overthink these songs. How you have the balance of an album and where you stack songs and how you pace it and you tempo it, and then you put that song above, which is about, you know, an ex-chick and what she's doing to drive you crazy now that you're not together or whatever. And then this song's kind of like, well, fuck you, if you'd still been here, everything would be great. Or maybe it's about like his buddies, you know, and thanking them for being by his side when she left. Either way, it's just kind of funny placement to me. It's still kind of a cool rockin' song, but like I think this showcases their kind of blues rock a little bit more.
Yeah. And might I add real quick that if first time listening to us, me and Mark are really, really stiflers on the outline of an album and the way the album plays and kind of the positioning of the tracks and the sequencing of them. So you're going to hear us reference that a lot, but there's intent behind what we have to say. So
yeah, it's called Check Out This Record, the whole record, goddammit.
Record. Thing.
Thanks for putting up with me, buddy. And you too, dear listener. Our next track number 8, Imperial Joy. I like that musically they get a little looser and experimental with the sound.
Yeah.
It's a cool kind of mid-tempo jam, but lyrically makes little to no sense, which is fine with me. I have no idea what the song is actually about. The blood in my veins comes from the kisses of 200,000 years. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's funny because this is my favorite song, I think, on the album. I really find that. Of course it is. Of course it is.
What are these guys from Ohio?
I know, jeez. And it's really beautiful. I love the chord strumming with the riff filling in between. I think the melody on the verse is great. And then we get the chorus, which totally switches to more clean and jangly style guitars. Speaking of the lyrics, I spoke of the lyrics in the prior song, and this one brings it back to a little bit more cryptic and arcane, to be honest with you. I like the I'll follow my joy as long as I'm here. Again, I think it's spiritual, and that's left to the individual's interpretation to me personally. So I like the whole, what are you looking for? Because it's such a potent question in life. And I don't know about you, Mark, but that's what has me up all night, usually thinking and pondering. So they are cryptic, and I think it's left to someone's own
and that's fine.
Interpretation, Then we get All Directions. So another song where the path to find the truth is discussed. Again, we get this cosmic nature, earthy feel, which seems to be the environment, especially now that you mentioned kind of in that back half of the record as this main character of the song or maybe the album, I don't know, is trying to seek, this truth. I can't help but think there's a theme here, right, with the searching and the trying to uncover what it's all about, and a little nod to life's journey, and maybe we have to go in the belly of the beast to get those experience. At least that's what I took away from it again. I may be really projecting here, as this is what I go through, so maybe I'm just kind of being like, oh, this is what I go through, so this is what the song's about. But yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I think you did too much microdosing. No, you make an excellent point. I think this might have been the original focal point for the album. Maybe not musically, but in terms of what they wanted the album to kind of stand for philosophically. Perhaps Feral Roots just had kind of a better ring as a title. Again, we're just speculating, folks. Anyways, as far as the track goes, I really dig it. Love the way they were able to make a large soundscape and delivery a really polished, minimalist piece. You really get the feel of open spaces. Really, really cool album. Definitely, for me, I think one of the highlights of this record. At track number 10, End of Forever. At first, I thought it was a Filter cover. I was like, oh, I didn't know these guys like Filter. But honestly, without that intro, the song's fine. It's just fine. Lyrically, it feels a little cheap. This is the end of forever. Hey, cliche.com called it, wants its chorus back. Okay. No, musically, other than the intro, it's pretty cool up until the bridge where that like electronic drum sound comes back. Not sure if this is where the studio, the extra time in the studio kind of came back to bite them. Because I just can't help but feel like in a raw recording session where they're coming in and they're banging these out, the original version of the song didn't have that stuff, and it was probably a way cooler track.
Yeah, I'd love to see kind of what songs took them the longest maybe to come up with, because this could very well be one of those. And I think this is one of those songs, to me personally, that suffers from album placement, because by the time we get here, we've had multiple songs, right, with this loud, fuzzy, distorted intro, and I get that's their style, and of course, the brooding vocals come in. I'm not saying this should have been replaced by an acoustic song by any means, but I just wasn't interested in this by the time we got to this point in the album. So, like you, this track was, it was okay for me. We get Shooting Stars, the end of the album. It's a great way to finish the album. I would really love to hear this song with crowd participation. It's got all the right stuff that, that connects the emotions together: love, faith, dancing, laughter, all key components that would make one's life complete. Again, what those things mean is different to everyone, right? But I think it's a positive way to end an album and leaves the listener perhaps wanting, to go on their own journey, if that's what this is all about.
Yeah, man. Speaking of journey, this sounds. I was texting Frank all day trying to figure it out. Literally the opening line of this song sounds like another song, and I can't for the life of me figure it out.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
Like 4 episodes tops, I'll figure it out and pull it out of my ass, and you'll be like, what is he talking about? And it's fine, don't worry about it. It really is just that opening line that gets me. Anyways, I love this as the closer. Yeah. I absolutely do.
It's nice.
That the choir is full and really rich. You really can hear. I tried to see some liner notes about if it was just them doing, gang vocals and it coming across as a choir, or if they hired one, because it sounded like a beautiful, really full and rich choir. The bass and drums are really perfectly balanced on this song with the guitar. They make great use of creating that open soundscape again, and I love the distortion on the guitar solo to sell it, and not traditionally you're stepping on a pedal, guitar solo, but the way they use the recording studio to make it feel as though the guitar solo is kind of drifting sonically away from you and then back around. I really thought that was a really good use of the studio, and I think it may have been one of the kind of redeeming moments of the extra time spent working on this record, because I absolutely love the way it came out.
Yeah.
Which brings us, kind of to our final thoughts. We both dug this at first glance, but how did it hold up on the deep dive for you, Frank?
Yeah, so on the deep dive, I'm a stubborn prick sometimes, Mark. And when
What?
we, yeah, I know.
I did not know that, guys. Breaking news.
Break,
This just in.
breaking news, right? Frank's a stubborn prick, but he is though. And now I'm speaking of myself, definitely in a different person. But anyway, when things like this are first suggested to me, I'm like, oh, here we go, another newer band that doesn't get it, but people just don't know better, so everyone's excited about it, blah 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 blah. But I have to do a better job of kind of letting that guard down, because this band is immensely talented. Buchanan, I think, is what the rock world needs. He's almost like this Jim Morrison like character with such an unbelievable singing voice, a better singing voice obviously than Jim Morrison, but I mean the talent guard shined on him and gave him a special gift. And from the live videos I've checked out, it doesn't disappoint. He is spot on. I did find some parallels with this album and band and Greta Van Fleet. Now, yes, they are way more mature sounding than them, and I know I like their album more than you did, Mark, but I think the same influences are here for both bands. I know you didn't dig them as much as I did, but I think both of those could be maybe some of the more premier rock bands that we get today. I like Scott Holiday's guitar work and his urge to use different tunings. It separates the songs from one another. The spiritual vibe I dug again too, and it's like the mind is left to wonder and ponder that constant question of what is this all about? What is it all about? I'd buy the vinyl. I'd go to the show. I'd listen to the back catalog, which I started to today. So, Keith, I say this: thank you for suggesting this band to us. Mark, what say you?
Overall, this album's pretty damn good. Lyrically, I think it could have been a bit more cohesive, but it doesn't really detract from an overall fun and rockin' album. You can tell these guys love the craft of rock and roll. This didn't have the feel of a concept album, and I don't think it was meant to. It felt pretty well balanced,
Yeah.
And managed to carry some loose spiritual, naturalistic themes running through, and it really felt complete as an album, which is cool for me. We had certainly front loaded with those 3 big heavy rockin' tracks.
Yeah.
And then it got lighter a little bit. We saw some return of that rock and roll, some of those bigger sounds, and I really felt like it paid off when it comes to the completeness of the album. I caught a fly, maybe. No, I didn't. I don't know that I'm gonna pick up the album, as it does drag for me a little in the middle. I definitely find myself putting on those first 3 tracks and then jumping into some of their other stuff.
Yeah.
But with that said, I've really liked a bit of their back catalog, and some of their grittier albums seem to appeal to me just a little bit more. I have to say, I'd love to see these guys, drinking some whiskey and have them get on stage. Let's see what this big rock and roll can do. I feel like their shows, if they put in the effort that they put on this album, will have a really great balance and would provide a really great live experience. Thanks, Keith. You picked for the pick. Fuck, dude, I can't even read. Keith, thanks for the pick. You're right. This dude has some seriously rad pipes. Frank, what are we talking about next week?
Yeah, so Mark, it was about 1998, and I bought a VHS tape, and it was of the Warped Tour, and it highlighted that year's Warped Tour, and I was surprised when a non-punk band was actually featured on it, and that non-punk band was the Deftones. I was confused. I thought they were, just the new metal, part of the new metal wave, and they hung out with Korn and all those people, but I liked it, and I thought they had the potential to be more than that whole new metal stuff. Now, I have to admit, there's a lot of the recent stuff that I haven't had the time to listen to, so this could be me completely going into that nostalgia bag, especially with those first 3 records, or more so those first 2. But I say, hey, let's take the second album, Round of Fur, which is generally ranked in the top 2 of their best records, and let's see what we're looking at here. It has such popular hits as My Own Summer, Shove It, and Be Quiet and Drive Far Away. So, Mark, are you ready for some Deftones?
I guess I am. We're gonna do new metal. It's weird. I'm probably one of the few people who kind of just actively passed on the Deftones. I remember people loving them. I obviously remember the hits from an old radio station that doesn't exist in South Florida anymore. But
that's Zeta, 94.9 Zeta.
That's right. So it'll be interesting to see what how they live up if I missed the boat entirely or if I was all right.
Cool. And that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. So that's Rival Sons. Everyone, thank you so much for joining and listening, especially those new listeners out there from via Redline Radio. Stay safe. Drop us a line. If you have an album to suggest, remember you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and now Redline. So check out the other shows as well. The Can Aired podcast is also a great show. So check that out, and you will be seeing more of us. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. And bye-bye.